So, you know how I was making that one game, Swords and Magic and stuff? Yeah, so that was hard. So now I'm making a new game. In case you haven't been here before, hi, I'm Michael Kosha. I've been making games since 2006, starting an RPG Maker, and now I work full-time in Unreal Engine. In 2020, my wife Jana and I released our first actual commercial project, Swords and Magic and stuff, on Steam in early access. That game is still in early access, for reasons that I won't go into in this video. But if you're curious about what I've learned from that project, let me know in the comments and then maybe I'll make a video about it. If you've been following my Swords and Magic devlogs, don't worry, we're not abandoning the project. Jan and I are still working on the game every week, and we still plan on finishing over time. But we have shifted our mindset. It's now a hobby project rather than a full-time job, and honestly, it's been way better for my mental health. So what is Seeking Adventure and why am I making it? To truly break out of the mental spiral I was in with Swords and Magic, I wanted to prove to myself that I wasn't just a one-trick developer, doomed to work on the same game forever. Seeking Adventure is that proof. It's the complete opposite of Swords and Magic in terms of scope and design. It's a tiny, mostly linear, 2D search and find game inspired by Hidden Folks. I love the simplicity and charm of Hidden Folks, but I wanted more gameplay depth, beyond just unlocking the next level. So I added an RPG twist, with dice rolls, an inventory system, and character progression, to create more of an interactive search and find experience. This game is a fresh start for us. It's a break from the overwhelming scope of Swords and Magic, a way to fund further development and an opportunity to diversify our game studio to grow our audience. I've learned that we got extremely lucky making any money at all on such a huge gamble like Swords and Magic, so this time we're trying a smarter approach with a smaller, more manageable game. So back in December, Jan and I sat down to plan out what a smaller commercial game could look like, not just in terms of design, but from a business perspective too. We set a deadline, end of February. Our goal was to have a polished demo ready in time for Steam Next Fest, and here we are. After spending years struggling with the scope creep in Swords Magic, it has been a breath of fresh air to work on something with clear, reasonable expectations. Sure, it's smaller and not my dream game, but it's finishable, and that alone makes it exciting. Let's talk about art. At first, I planned to draw all the art myself, inspired by the Hidden Folks' monochromatic, sketchy style. I spent a few days trying to establish a cohesive art style, but I quickly realized that my hand drawing skills were way too rusty to keep up with that scope. To realistically create massive levels filled with hundreds of unique assets, I'd have to get way better at drawing and fast, and that just wasn't going to happen in the few months I had to finish this game. So instead of forcing it, I decided to look at existing art assets, and I found Stephen Colling's Isle of Lore packs. I love the simple yet vibrant look, and I realized that they'd save me months of work while still fitting the vision. But that doesn't mean the game's 100% off-the-shelf assets. I've been creating a bunch of custom pieces to expand the style, like new icons, environment pieces, and even this entire modular building kit, as I'm showing now, to make the houses and villages sit seamlessly into the world. So while I'm using a pre-made art pack as a base, the final game will still have my own unique touch. But here's where things got tricky. Unreal Engine and 2D games do not mix well. For those of you who haven't tried it, Unreal's sprite rendering is weird. I ran into problems where sprites would randomly sort themselves incorrectly near the edge of the screen, even when using an orthographic camera and a manual sorting system. I spent way too much time trying to fix it, and honestly, I still don't fully understand why it's happening. For those of you who don't know, 2D in Unreal Engine isn't all sunshine and rainbows. This project has made me realize that I do not like working in 2D, and I won't be making any more 2D games after this. Unreal Engine's sprite rendering is weird, and I have no idea how to fix some of the awkwardness with it, like how the edges of the camera show my sprites rendered in the wrong layers. Even when I'm using an orthographic camera, and this shouldn't be a problem. Even when I'm using a manual sprite sorting system that takes all my sprites' YA coordinates in the world and spaces them out evenly using a mapped range. Yet Unreal still insists on automatically changing their sorting when they get to the edge of the screen, and I don't know why. Not to mention all the headache it takes to get sprites to look crisp and clear in Unreal Engine. It's just simply not built for 2D games. I wanted to take advantage of the built-in physics as well, but that was probably a mistake because now I have to set everything up on a ground plane and then rotate all my sprites 30 degrees to match the camera angle. All just so I can have my items use gravity to fall when they pop out. Not worth it. And while I was considering switching to GameMaker or Godot for this project, I think I would have been in a similar boat just trying to learn a brand new engine rather than dealing with the quirks of Unreal. So in the end, it probably would have been a toss-up. If I had to start over instead of switching engines, I'd probably just make the game in 3D. Plus, I think it would have given it a totally different and unique vibe. While working on figuring out the art style, I was also prototyping the basic mechanics. It wasn't long before you could click on an object to get an item to spawn, Though I quickly realized that these items would get stuck behind other items in the world, so I decided to add a little bounce mechanic so they'd hop out from behind things if they couldn't do a line trace directly to the camera. The next step was building an inventory. I built one directly into the HUD with a simple animation that hides and unhides it. It worked fine, but it's pretty ugly. And little did I know that I'd spend nearly 3 days reworking and removing all of this code in separate widget blueprints just so I could add better, more purposeful art to it. My foresight is not 20/20 all the time. But now that you could pick up items and store them in your inventory, it was time to build a quest system. So you had something to actually do with these items. And this is where Jana and I sat down and decided on some strict design limitations to 1, help drive creativity, 2, keep the game simple and stay in line with our hidden object genre, and 3, keep the scope small. This is where we made a very controversial choice that I'm personally battling with every day. The game would have no text. Not just the quest system, the entire game. 0 text anywhere, nowhere, not the menus, anywhere. At first it seemed really simple, and it meant that we could also claim to be localized for all languages, which meant a broader audience and no actual localization work. After being hit with the fact that localization for our last game would cost over $30,000 and would take several months to complete, this was kind of a welcome option. With over 300 NPCs in Swords and Magic, each with their own custom, unique dialogue, it's pretty nice dropping an NPC into the game world and seeking adventure, giving them a quest, and just being done with them. Speaking of design restrictions, trying to keep the scope small and manageable means we also have to be extremely strict about mechanics. We've already heard a bunch of ideas for things like crafting systems, drag and drop mechanics, etc. And while I think all these things would be awesome, trying to design interesting situations and content around the few simple mechanics that we already have is the plan. And it's working out so far. There are definitely a few additional mechanics that involve chain reaction type gameplay and some additional AI setup that I'll be doing, but for the most part, all the mechanics are all set up and we're going to design within them. So how does the game work? The mechanics in Seeking Adventure are simple and intuitive, but they add just enough depth to keep things interesting. The entire game is designed to play with just a mouse, so there are no complicated controls. Just point, click, and explore. Clicking on objects in the world is the core interaction. Some things are just set dressing, but others might give you an item or trigger an event. If an object has a quest attached, you'll see a small indicator when you hover over it. If you already have the item it needs, clicking on it will complete the quest instantly. No extra steps, no inventory management nightmares, just clean, simple interactions. For challenges, it's a little different. Some interactions aren't guaranteed to succeed. Instead, they require a dice roll. When you hover over a challenge, you'll see the target score you need to beat. Click and your dice will roll. If you hit the number or higher, you succeed. If not, well, maybe next time. Exploration isn't just about clicking random objects though. Each level has a list of goal objects with attached hidden gems, which sort of act as a form of progression or a score. You'll need a certain number of gems to unlock later levels, so if you're the kind of player who loves thoroughly searching every nook and cranny, you'll be rewarded. There's also gear. Finding and equipping gear lets you upgrade your dice, improving your odds on challenges. A basic weapon might let you roll a 4-sided die, but a better one could bump that up to a 6-sided or even higher, making difficult challenges easier. Some gear even has extra stat bonuses, so there's a bit of strategy in how you outfit your character. And of course, there's a health system. Your stamina determines your maximum health, and if you run out, you won't be able to attempt challenges until you heal up. That's where food and potions come in. Eating or drinking restores health, and some potions even boost your stats temporarily, giving you an edge in tougher levels. And that's really all there is to it. It's a search and find game with light RPG mechanics, keeping things engaging without overcomplicating the experience. And thanks to proper scope management, literally the opposite of Swords and Magic, we've already released a pretty polished demo for Seeking Adventure. It includes 4 levels with anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes of gameplay depending on how fast you click, and we might be adding more content to it over time, but for now I think it's in a great spot, with only a couple of minor bugs. Our demo is live currently right now on Steam as part of the Next Fest. Steam prioritizes games with more demo downloads, so every playthrough helps us get discovered. And if you want to support the game, wishlist it. Wishlists directly affect how Steam recommends the game to new players, so even if you're not planning on buying it, adding it to your wishlist still helps us out tremendously. So what's next? Well, content. A lot more content. Most of the game mechanics are in place, but we still need to build out the levels and gameplay scenarios. Our original goal was early to mid-March, but there's still a lot of work left to do. Luckily, content is quick to make, but we want to add more unique mechanics and interactions to keep things fresh and interesting as you go through the levels. If you have ideas of interesting uses for these mechanics, drop them in the comments. Community feedback is a huge part of why I like to make these devlogs, and if you're a fellow game dev, then I'd love to hear your perspective. Anyway, I'm keeping things short and sweet this time, so thanks for watching. If you want to catch some live development, game jams, or other game dev content, I stream here and on Twitch Tuesdays and Thursdays at around 10 a.m. PST. Go wishlist Seeking Adventure on Steam, try the demo, and let me know what you think. If you want to support us directly, consider joining Patreon. You'll get early access to prototypes and even see your name here in the credits, right here on the devlogs. Okay, I'm gonna go now, but I can't leave until you wishlist the game, so did you do it yet? Click the link. I'll wait. Just click it. Click the link. Okay, great. Thanks. Bye. This game is a French. It's not French.